I have a friend who, after graduating from university, applied to a college in Canada to pursue a 2-year computer programming diploma. It was 2019, and under the leadership of Liberal Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, the country was thriving. Canada was welcoming international students and immigrants with open arms. It was truly a golden era for studying and immigrating. Back then, as long as you prepared the required documents, you were almost guaranteed to get accepted into a school. International students were everywhere on campus, making up a vibrant and diverse community. 2 years later, my friend successfully graduated and received his diploma. But what made everyone envy him even more was that on the day of his graduation, he received a job offer from a company. He never had to experience the typical post-graduation job hunting anxiety. In Canada, international students who complete 2 years of study can apply for a 3-year post-graduation work permit. For many, the ultimate goal of studying in Canada is to obtain permanent residency, and my friend was no exception. After working for a year, he applied for express entry, entering the pool to wait for an immigration draw. At the same time, his company also offered him a provincial nominee program through employer sponsorship. With both pathways in progress, he was hopeful that one of them would secure his status in Canada. Fast forward to 2023. The aftershocks of the pandemic hadn't fully settled, yet the economy was already declining. Inflation was rising, the government was aggressively hiking interest rates, and businesses were cutting costs. Unemployment was on the rise. Then, in November, he was laid off. For him, it was a devastating blow. At that time, he hadn't received an invitation from Express Entry yet, and his employer-sponsored immigration process was forced to halt because he lost his job. To make things worse, his post-graduation work permit was about to expire. That meant if he couldn't find a new job immediately, he would have to leave Canada. But the job market wasn't what it used to be. Most companies were no longer hiring, and despite trying desperately, he couldn't secure a new offer before his work permit expired. In the end, he had no choice but to pack up and return home. Even after returning home, he refused to give up. He kept sending out resumes to Canadian companies, hoping to find an employer willing to sponsor his work visa so he could go back to Canada. But times had changed, anti-immigration sentiment in Canada was growing, and the government was reducing study permits and work permits to ease local employment and housing crises. For companies, hiring foreign workers directly from overseas had become almost impossible. The job hunt back home was even harder than he expected. Then, not long after he returned, one day, he casually opened his inbox and scrolled through his old emails. That's when he saw it. An email from the Canadian government regarding his employer-sponsored immigration application. The email had been sitting there, unopened, for 9 months, since before he was laid off. He clicked on it and read the contents. It said that his application had met all the criteria. His points were high enough, and he was on track to receive permanent residency. But why on track? Because the main purpose of the email was to request a missing document, and the deadline to submit it, just 14 days from the date of the email. The problem was, he was only seeing this now. By the time he opened that email, it had already been almost a year. His immigration application had long expired. If only he had checked his inbox regularly during that period. If only he had paid more attention to his emails instead of wasting time gaming all day and pulling all-nighters. Would his life be completely different now? Maybe everything had been too easy for him before, making him less cautious. But for someone whose ultimate goal was to get permanent residency, this should have been the one thing he was most concerned about. And yet, He let this golden opportunity slip right through his fingers. Now, back in his home country, he's still waiting, hoping to find a job in Canada. But the harsh reality is, he doesn't even know if he'll ever have the chance to go back, let alone get permanent residency. We often envy others for their good luck. Some people are born into wealth, some have smooth sailing careers, and some just seem to have everything going right for them. But those who seem to be blessed by the heavens, maybe it's simply the results of their past efforts. So instead of wasting time envying them, why not focus on how we can create our own luck? For most of us, luck isn't just something that happens, it's something we can prepare for. Just like my friend, if he had taken just a few minutes once a week to check his inbox, he would have already been a permanent resident by now. Even if he still got laid off, he could have stayed in Canada, with far better job opportunities than if he were applying from overseas. What my friend missed wasn't just an opportunity, he missed the ability to seize it. Sometimes we look at others and think they're simply lucky, but more often than not, their luck is actually a result of their hard work, persistence, and attention to detail. The more cautious, hardworking, and prepared you are, the easier it becomes to encounter luck. At this point, you probably already know, we can't change the past, but what about the future? Is there something you can do now that will make your future self luckier, more successful, or better prepared? Maybe it's time to pause, reflect, and plan ahead. Because in the end, it's better to be the one others envy, rather than the one doing the envying.